So welcome everybody to this session. I'm really chuffed to bits that Tory has been able to make time during her day. This is an exceptionally busy time for her and an exceptionally busy day. So thank you for carving out the time to be with us today, Tory, to answer questions. And thank you everybody for making time to be here with us today. So today is all about making sense of the budget. Yesterday, or the summer statement, which is the correct name for it, of course. It's all about making sense of it and to actually see what it means for business owners. So very much focusing on it from a business owner's perspective, and also trying to put it into context with some of the things that are out there, still out there, and what's happening in the wider world. So looking at it very much in context, and also trying to think perhaps about some ways to help some of you who haven't received any help, who aren't eligible for any help, and really who this budget probably doesn't offer any help to. So we are here to answer questions. Do pop questions in the question box or in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that, and there will be time for questions at the end as well. So I'd just like to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Julia Blake. I run Blake Consultants, and I've been running Blake Consultants for the last 10 years, and I help businesses grow by having the right processes and systems in place so that they can leverage all of the good stuff that they do, and the business owner can spend more time doing what they want to do and less time on the back office stuff. So it's all working seamlessly behind the scenes. And I'd like to introduce Tory to those of you who don't know you. Tory is an accountant. She owns and manages and runs Panthera Accounting, and she specialises in accountancy for family-based businesses. And she's based in Didcot. So I'm just going to let right. So that's the introductions. That's us. And I'd like to actually start this session off with a couple of polls. I think it'd be really interesting to see what's going on with you guys, how you are thinking and feeling about all of this stuff. So there's just two polls. There's just a couple of questions in each, or 3 questions in each, and it's completely anonymous. Okay, so I'm just going to launch the first one. And the first one is, have you been able to access or make use of any of the help given by the government so far during the COVID crisis? The piece is completely anonymous. And
so do we get extra points if we reply really quickly?
Yes, I know. So fingers on the buzzer.
Yeah. Like a hoot, you get more points if you're really quick.
That's right. Yeah. No. So the answer, yes or no, I wasn't eligible, or no, I chose not to, although I was eligible. So 9 out of 11 have responded. Thank you. Oh, this is very empowering, isn't it? Okay, 10 out of 11. 11 out of 11. Okay. So I'm going to end the poll, and I can actually share the results. So 7 of you, 64%, said that you had been able to access some help. That's excellent. 27% weren't eligible, and 9% chose not to. Okay, thank you. So that's really good to put that into context to see where to position this meeting and to how to help you all the most and in the best way. Okay, and then the second poll is, I'm still quite new to this whole poll thing, so it's very exciting, but it's a little bit multitasky. Right, so close that, open that. Oh no, we don't want to share results, we've done that one. Here we go. Did he, right, as in the Chancellor, not just some random person, did the Chancellor go far enough? That should be process. Sorry, it was all put together a little bit speedily before we joined the meeting. So did he go far enough in the process? So are you happy with what's in the summer statement from what you've seen so far, or do you think it should have gone further? So the choices are, I think the summer statement is good. I think the summer statement doesn't go far enough. I'm very disappointed with the summer statement, and I'm not sure at the moment, so I can't answer. And I'd be in that pot, quite frankly. Okay, so that's interesting. Thank you. So, okay, excellent. Everybody has responded. Thank you very much. Just going to share those results. Okay, brilliant. So a balance there between the it's good and don't know enough to answer. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Fab. So I think that the theme of the meeting is on track, as in let's share the main points of the budget, put questions into the Q&A or into the chat, and we'll pick up some ideas, hopefully, around building up the business and getting yourselves through this. So do put any specific questions that you have around that into the chat or into the question and answer area. Obviously, the more specific the question, the easier it is to answer and the better quality answer you'll probably get or possibly get. But let's just see how that goes, and we can take any conversations offline as well if you'd like to. So Tory, without further chatter from me, I'd like to hand over to you.
Thanks so much, Julia. And I just want to say a quick thank you to Julia for inviting me to talk today. It's really nice to be able to talk to people straight after a budget and let you know what's happened. There is a downside to it. We don't always know all the answers. So I have read I've read the whole plan for jobs. It's a very exciting read. I did that over lunch yesterday. So I can talk about the things that we do know, but once in a while I'm going to say, we're just waiting for some more detail, which seems to be my catchphrase of the last 4 months. We're waiting for some more detail. So we'll hopefully give you as much as we can in the next sort of 20 minutes or so. And please ask me lots of questions. It really helps me to stop it being quite as dry as we know sometimes this financial information can feel a little bit heavy. I'll try really hard to give you some real life examples of how I think this is going to work. But do ask me any questions while we're going through, pop it in the chat and we'll work through them. So there was not a budget yesterday, not even a mini budget. The Chancellor liked to call it a summer economic update. I've never seen a non-budget with quite so many announcements in it, and it's kept us really, really busy. So what we're going to do is use the same format that the Chancellor's used, and he broke it down into 3 distinct areas. So what we had was we have supporting jobs, protecting jobs, and creating jobs as these 3 areas. And this summer economic update was entitled A Plan for Jobs. This Chancellor is really good with his catchphrases. He's really got this stuff nailed. So lots of slogans, lots of hashtags, the eating out to help out slogan is everywhere already. And so we're going to stick with that same 3 area breakdown just to make it a little bit easier to digest. So the headline bits that I want to get across to you guys, and I'm going to really focus on what's important for SME owners. There's a lot of stuff in there about the NHS and about road building and about big infrastructure projects, and there's not a lot of detail there. There's a lot of talk about it, and it will come on later. But for most of my clients, and I suspect most of you here, that's not going to be the focus of what you want to know about this budget. It's going to be, what does it mean for my business right now? So that's what we're going to look at. So if we just start with that supporting jobs area, really the top headline for many people, I think, on this call, and Caroline and I do lots of calls on a Friday about furlough. And so the first thing we're going to talk about here is the job retention bonus. So the job retention bonus was announced as £1,000 bonus to anybody, any employer that has had a furloughed member of staff and continues to have them in employment at the end of January 2021. It's a bit of a funny one, this. I don't really know how I feel about it yet. I'm still working it through. My gut instinct is, if you tell me I'm going to have £1,000 at the end of January, but I've got to keep somebody employed for all of that time until January to get my £1,000, it's going to cost me a lot more than £1,000 for your average sort of employee. So with my advisor head on, I'm not going to tell my clients to carry on paying £2,000 out for the next 6-7 months to get £1,000 at the other end, because if they're having to make somebody redundant, it's because they can't afford to do that. So the scheme is going to work in that if they're still employed 31st of January, you get your £1,000 bonus. I'm guessing, and this again hasn't been made clear yet, but if you were a director who furloughed themselves at some point, you will have that £1,000 bonus if your business is still in place. And there are going to be plenty of directors who are going to feel a bit of a kick in the teeth because they didn't take the furlough, they kept themselves working all the way through, and that £1,000 is not going to come to them. We might see some of this sort of wash out as that discussion happens, but as it stands at the moment, anybody that has been furloughed, and that will have meant that at the 30th of June, you'll have had to have been furloughed during that period for at least 3 weeks, because if you weren't furloughed, then you can't use the flexible furlough that comes in after from the 1st of July onwards. So you've got to have had 3 weeks of furlough in the 30th of June and before period. Then you'll have this £1,000 bonus if they're still on your payroll on the 31st of January 2021. So that is the first of the supporting jobs announcements. The second one is the Kickstart scheme. So these are 6-month fully funded placements for 16 to 24-year-olds. And there is a proviso in the paperwork that wasn't made clear in the announcement, but they need to be people who would be at risk of not being able to get into long-term work. Now, again, this is a phrase that hasn't been pulled apart and explained to us exactly who they might be. My guess is if you've got a very bright and able 21-year-old son or daughter that you want to put into your business and get paid for, they may not fall into this batch. It may be that they've already had to have gone through some job centre type of interviews. They may have had to have been looking for work for a certain amount of time to be allowed. So don't go planning that you've got this whole batch of A-level leavers that you're just going to pop into your business for free for 6 months. It could be more complex than that. I'd love to hear what Jane has to think about this. I don't want to put you on the spot right now. Jane is a recruiter, and she's one of the first people that sort of popped into my mind when I saw this come up, thinking, actually, this is a fantastic opportunity to get younger people with possibly great digital skills into our businesses. I think it's 38% of businesses in the UK have very low digital abilities. And this came out of Zira's did a bit of chat this morning about this. Now, as business owners, bringing digital skills into our businesses is vital right now, really, really important. These younger people have them more naturally than we do. I don't think that's controversial to say. I think if you want somebody to help you run your Instagram account, you ask your children. Those skills are out there. They're in this 18 to 24-year-old demographic. Is it 16 to 24-year-old demographic? And if you can have them for free, you don't pay the national insurance contributions, you don't pay the pension contributions for that first 6 months, the government will cover all of that for you, then that's got to be a really appealing option. So what I'm saying to my clients at the moment is, here are these amazing schemes that are coming through that could be very helpful for you. You have no idea if they're the right thing for you or not if you don't have a business plan. You must have a business plan before you work out if this is the right thing for you to use. Don't do it the other way around. Don't say, here's a great scheme, I can get a cheap 16-year-old, I'll find a way to plug them into the business. Write the plan first, then use the schemes to help you to get where you need to get to. So that's the Kickstart scheme. And then we've got the apprenticeship bonus. So the apprenticeship bonus is going to be a £2,000 bonus for every under 25-year-old apprentice that you hire in the next, I think it's in the next 6 months. I would just check the timing on that one. And if they are over 25, it's £1,500. So there's still a bonus there, even if it's somebody in that slightly older demographic. The thing I just want to sort of pull out about apprentices is that they don't always look the way you think apprentices look. So an apprentice doesn't have to be in a classic trade. You know, they're not all training to be motor mechanics, for example. So in our business, you can have apprentice accountants and trainees who are going through something like bookkeeping exams can be apprentices too. So it would definitely be worth, if you're thinking about being trainees and people up and through into your business, going and having a look at some of these apprenticeship schemes. Alongside this announcement is a lot of funding into job centres, careers advisors, and I think what we'll see from that is there'll be a lot more information available to business owners to understand how apprenticeships would work in your business. So I think now is a good time to be thinking about if you've got a growth plan, if you're changing the way that your business looks, going and finding out a little bit more about some of these schemes, because it's going to be a really good way of getting new skills and training into your business. So that is the supporting jobs area. Before I go on to the second area we're looking at, have we got anything that I've popped up in the questions that we need to talk about?
Yeah. Hi. Yes, there was a question. With so many people, businesses needing to change direction or to pivot, where is the support for supporting internal change, training and creating new roles within businesses?
That's a really good question. So nothing concrete from what we've got in these announcements. But there is a lot of investment, and there is a little section in here talking about using the private sector for training. Now, it's nothing much clearer than that. I don't know if I can find the actual wording in the policy descriptions. I tell you what, afterwards I might just, if somebody specific wants that, I'll pull it out of the wording, and I'll let you know what it is. But it does sound to me like the government is planning to spend in the private sector, as well as bringing new advisors. So they're going to bring new careers advisors into the job centre DWP part of helping to get people back into work. But there's also going to be some spending on training and leadership in the private sector, and I'm hoping that as small businesses will be able to access that directly. It may be that you're going to have to fund some of that stuff yourself in order to work out what you've got to do in your business, and then you'll be able to plug some of these schemes into that plan. And you may find out in the business community, in the community that Julie has built, there are a number of people like me who are doing things like business recovery planning at half their usual price, or other similar sorts of offers, just to give the small business community some of the expertise and support that us as business advisors would normally be selling out at full price, and we're doing that to try and bring our business community through. So there's definitely help out there. Keep on asking. I know that some of the bigger schemes that we used to have available to us from local authorities and that were government funded aren't around quite so much. But if you go to some of your, so for example, Oxlep in the Oxfordshire area, there is funding there to match funding on marketing. There's match funding for other kinds of training. So it's worth going and having a look and seeing what sort of grants there are out there.
And there's another question that the Kickstart scheme sounds very good. Any thoughts on where you might be able to find people aged 16 to 24 on universal credit, etc.? Where are they?
Jane, would you mind if I just popped? Could you let me know how easy it is to find 16 to 24-year-olds at the moment in the job market?
It's relatively easy. If I was looking to attract 16 to 24-year-olds, I'd be, guess what? I'd be online. I'd be on, a Facebook, Instagram, looking for them there. Yeah, that's how you're going to you've got to go to where they are, like any kind of marketing. And that's where you're going to find them. I'm very interested to hear how the job market is going to pivot. The job centres are going to pivot in their approach and the way that they do things, but I suspect that they won't probably be as quick and as reactive as we would like them to be. Yeah, we've got to find, maybe there's apprenticeship organisations that are going to be able to help us, because I know that there are organisations that are set up specifically by the government as agencies and conduits to help bring apprentices to their workplace. So people like Activate Learning come to mind. Can't think of any others at the moment, but I can certainly let people know about any others if they're interested.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That would be great to keep that conversation going, I think, and keep that dialogue going. So Jane Johnson runs Better People Limited, an excellent recruitment consultant. So thank you, Jane. And of course, the job centres are taking on 13,000 new staff, aren't they? So, it's going to take time to train them and get all that sorted.
It definitely is. I think the other approach you can take in is to go to some of those training companies, because they very often will have the understanding of how the schemes work, because they are taking money from them. So in order for them to be able to sell courses, they know that employers are going to need to access apprenticeships type of schemes. So they're often quite knowledgeable about how those schemes work. And that's definitely an approach that we've taken in the past, is talking to colleges or training facilities who then make sure that we understand the apprenticeship schemes. They can be quite complex, and there can be quite a lot of paperwork around them. I'm really hoping that is one of the areas the government's going to focus on, is really making it easy for small businesses to understand the process and to work it through. Good. Shall I move on to the second section? So protecting jobs. So this section covers we've already mentioned it, the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. So this is, I feel like this is a bit of the shiny thing over here, so you don't look at the thing over there from the government. So let's just talk about what it is. It's a voucher scheme, and it's if you eat out Monday to Wednesday during August, 50% of your food bill for eat-in, and it's only eat-in, will be covered by the government up to £10 per head. And you can do that as many times as you want. So if you want to eat out every day, Monday to Wednesday in August, then the government will put £10 towards that for you. We don't know how it's going to be dealt with yet. And it's August. It doesn't start till the 1st of August. And in the new world, that's such a long time away. We don't need to tell anybody how it's going to work. So we are expecting that it will be some kind of digital voucher. I really don't expect you to have paper vouchers. I don't think that's how this is going to go. It'll be some sort of digital voucher. And if you are running a cafe, a bar, a restaurant, or some other sort of food outlet where people sit in, you'll be claiming that back from the government. If this was 6 months ago, I would have been terrified for them about that concept, because of the way that government IT projects that involve finance have run in the past. I will give HMRC and the Treasury the dues that they deserve on this, having seen how they did the self-employed income support scheme and they rolled that out and it worked. I think it's going to be fine, but there will be admin involved, absolutely, because with my accountant's head up here, the fraud possibilities around this seem enormous to me. So expect a few loops to jump through. If you're in this boat, you're going to be the supplier, you're going to be claiming this back. There could be some cash flow issues that come with this. If, for example, you start doing it on the 1st of August and you can't put your claim in until the 15th of August and the money doesn't arrive until the 31st of August, you're giving everybody their food at half price for that whole month. That could cause some issues. I'm sure the government have thought about this. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of fast turnaround. I hope, fingers crossed. I know if you are in hospitality and tourism, it sounds good. It's going to be a bloody headache at times. I think the thing to know is that accountants know this. We're on it. We're talking about it. You should see what the chat rooms look like. It's a bit manic over there, but we will help people through it. And we'll all, even if you're not our clients, I know lots of accountants out here saying, if you're really on your own, give us a shout. We will do what we can to help you. So that's how that scheme works. If you're a consumer on the other side, if that's your thing, eat out as much as you want to. It's all meant to be stimulating the economy. I think there are possibly other things that we could have done to help this sector in a different way, like extending furlough for them rather than forcing everybody out. But, that's my political view and we'll stay away from that. So that's the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. Oh, little point on that, it does not contain alcohol. So if you don't get any money off if you go to the pub and you want a pint of beer, there's nothing there. And that non-alcoholic bit runs through into my next point, which is the VAT cut. Now, for those people that have got their pictures up, is there anybody in the tourism or yeah, Becky, of course it's going to hit you, isn't it? So tourism and hospitality trades. The VAT cut starts, so we go to a 5% rate on items that would be covered under tourism and hospitality, and that will be from Wednesday. So far so good. A change of VAT halfway through a month is unusual. A change of VAT halfway through a week is unfortunate. It's going to be complicated if you aren't in some kind of cloud system. If you're already on Xero or QuickBooks Online or any of the other ones, then this is not the headache that it possibly sounds like. Xero, which is my preferred software, you just switch from it being 20% to 5% and you are done. It's really no big deal. If you do weekly taking sheets, which I know lots of pubs do, lots of cafes do it like this, you're going to have a right headache because you're going to need to split. If you do wet sales as one of your columns, which is very regular in the pub industry, if you do wet sales, you're going to have to split your wet sales between alcoholic and non-alcoholic. We've been chatting this morning about shandy. You're going to all start selling a pint of beer plus a pint of lemonade because you can do 5% on this and 20% on that rather than adding it together and it becomes an alcoholic drink. It's funny at the moment, someone's saying, are you having this conversation in the Treasury right now? And it's going to be our Jaffa Cake problem. So, you know, what sort of thing falls into the 5% and what sort of thing doesn't fall into the 5% is definitely going to come up. And Becky, so Becky Towell here runs an events company. I can see there's going to be some conversations around, is what you're doing tourism or is what you're doing marketing, and where do those two things meet? I haven't got any guidance on it yet. It's okay, I've got 5 days to work it out, so we'll let you know when we get there. So that whole conversation, just keep your eyes on social media. We'll be talking about it a lot more. I think from what's happened in the last 4 months, my best advice is do your best. So you aren't going to have a solid answer to every question that's going to come up around VAT. VAT law has evolved over many, many years, going to judges, going to first-tier tribunals, people making a decision about if a Jaffa cake's a cake or a biscuit. That takes years to come up with. So we won't know by Wednesday. You have to just make your best decision on the information that you've got, and you won't get penalised for doing that. What you will get penalised for is clearly using the rules in the way that they're not intended. So ask for advice, get online, ask accountants, ping me a message if you've got something you're thinking, where does this fall? And we will do our best to get you an answer. But that's the VAT change. Again, if you or your clients or somebody that you're talking to is in cafe, restaurant business, there will be reprints if they have printed menus probably coming, because most menus have got something about 20% VAT on them. So if you're in any of those associated industries, you might just want to be really ready for helping people with those kind of questions. Again, anywhere that they've got printed matter, so receipts, till receipts, there's going to have to be a change of wording on that for the change from 20% to 5%. One of the questions I've been asked a lot around this is, does that mean the consumer gets the 15% difference, or does it stay with the business owner? There is no legal reason that the business owner has to pass this on to the consumer. No reason at all. You will have possibly already seen, I know Brewdog put out a message yesterday afternoon saying all of the VAT that we're saving, we're passing straight on to our customers. That's probably fine. They're a big brewery. They're going to be charging 20% either way on most of the stuff that they sell. It's just going to be on the food portion. It's not the majority of their business. For small local cafes, I don't think consumers should expect that to be being passed on to them. It's meant to help them get through this tricky period. So you'll see a mixture of stuff going on, but you might have these conversations about pricing and what do I do with pricing when we've got this VAT difference? And the answer is, it's absolutely up to you as a business owner. This is more of a decision about pricing and marketing than it is a decision about financials. Hopefully that's helped to answer that one. Julia, got any more questions coming up on this? No? Okay, so I'll just go straight on to creating jobs, which is the last section. And I've just got two major announcements in the creating jobs area. So the one I think that affects most people in discussions I'm having is the stamp duty land tax change. So this took effect from yesterday. If you're buying a house and it was falling under stamp duty because you were between £125,000 in value and £500,000 in value, you now won't be paying stamp duty on that. And that is up until the 31st of March that stamp duty temporary change has been put in place. So it's really good news for first-time buyers, for people who are moving at the moment. It's good news for estate agents. It's good news for lettings agents where things have got stagnant in the market. And it's also good news for those people in the construction industry where they're wanting to start on a renovation project, but the turnover of property is just getting slow, and so that's not happening for them. So I'm hoping that we'll start to move that through. Again, 6 months is not a very long time in the property market or in construction. There's going to be a cliff edge on the 31st of March when nobody wants to buy or sell a property that's over 125,000 and under 500,000, because suddenly that becomes a lot more expensive. So we'll see this big bottleneck to the end of March for solicitors trying to close deals on time, and then probably a fall off in April. There's probably going to be another budget and a change in the law by then, so we'll deal with that when we get there. And the last thing I want to sort of bring up in this creating jobs area is the Green Homes Grant. Again, this is for, I've focused in on small and medium-sized business owners who may be able to do this on their own homes or alternatively, you might have a business that can get involved in this in some way. So my electricians, my plumbers, and my energy efficiency specialists, these guys should be able to really benefit from this. And it's one I feel really strong. I'm really pleased to see a green emphasis in this budget, because we don't always hear that from a Conservative government, and it's the right thing to do. And so if you're looking for insulation for your home, you want to change up some of the ways that your home is working and you can make it more energy efficient, then this is a matching grant. So the announcement says up to £2 for every £1 that the homeowner spends. Very grey. We'll see how that comes out. I think it will depend on the energy efficiency of the building that you start with, which is how these grants have been done in the past. And then it could go up to £10,000 depending on the sort of home that you have. But most likely for our sorts of business owner clients, it's going to be a grant of up to about £5,000. So if you're thinking about doing some renovations, some changes, loft insulation, that kind of stuff, those grants are on their way and they should be looked out for. And that's my run of my top headlines. There's a lot more in this budget, lots and lots of infrastructure projects, lots of stuff that was planned for next fiscal year that's been brought forward into this year. And there's some quieter announcements about planning regulations being changed quite dramatically. So in certain areas, changing buildings that have been used for other uses into housing may no longer need planning permission. Now, you probably just want to, if you either own your own offices, or you're looking at moving, or you're renting from somewhere and you happen to fall into one of those areas, you might just want to keep a real eye on that, because it could mean something that's happened to me personally, that your building that you're very happily in an office in is going to get taken out, no planning permission required, changed into housing, and you'll be out on the streets. So just keep a little eye on any changes like that happening around you. The old way where you'd get a call up because you could see the planning permission coming, you'd have a bit of time to change. Without the planning restrictions in place, you might find those changes happen much more quickly. So just be aware of what's going on around you. That's my Whistlestop Tour. Oh, done all right.
Look at that. Thank you, Tory.
That's
brilliant. All right. So as far as specific help for small business owners, it's sort of coming in a little bit from the side, isn't it? So we can see that clearly there's some help by some sort of younger skills coming in at a sort of more cost efficient way, possibly. We'll have to see what happens with that, but that we could really have that sort of additional assets and skill set in our businesses that could help our own businesses. Absolutely key, as you always say, to have that business plan. Interested to hear about the government help, potentially offering some further help with training and development. That's going to affect so many businesses that haven't received any help so far, isn't it? That's a very interesting one to keep an eye on. Didn't know that was in the pipeline, so that's brilliant. And of course the events industry, and as Becky pointed out, having the VAT cut on corporate event locations and accommodation, that's going to help. It's going to be fairly complex, isn't it, to move that through, but it is something in the vaguely the right direction for the events industry that really suffered in this. And of course we still haven't had the announcement about what the government is going to suggest about events. They were intimating at the end of last week something that was going to come out this week about numbers in meetings and events and how that would work, and I don't think from what I've seen to date that anything has come out about that, so that's disappointing. I guess they've had their hands full with the sorting out the £10 vouchers on the but hopefully there will be some movement on that. As far as the change in the stamp duty, and that's brilliant news for people like interior designers. So it's almost about thinking outside the box and thinking about who is going to benefit from these changes, and if we have anybody in our client base who could benefit. So obviously the solicitors are going to be very busy coming up to the end of March. Interior designers could be sort of encouraged to come back into houses, construction industry, and the green element. There's a lot of businesses out there that could really have a bit of a boost from that. But it is about just peeling away the layers of what was in that budget, isn't it, to try and find what is good for small businesses. And there are, of course, these businesses out there who are called the excluded, who have had no help at all. And again, this is just not really helping them in an obvious way, is it?
No, that absolutely. There's nothing distinctly pulled out for. And what I think about when I think about those excluded is they tend to be one director, possibly two directors in a small business where they don't employ anybody and they didn't have their own premises. So they missed out on the grants. They missed out on furlough. So they've probably gone in for a bounce back loan, and they will be starting to make repayments on that this time next year. Now, for those guys, if they're not thinking about bringing in somebody for training, an apprentice type of person, this budget really doesn't have very much in it other than 10 quid off a meal at some stage. Now, that is not going to see you through. So, no, I think you're absolutely right. There's been some big announcements, but cash in the pockets of those people, that's not in this budget. But this is, again, not being branded as a budget. This is an economic update, and there is a budget on its way, and there will be much more information about changes in that budget. I'm expecting that there will be some pain alongside some giveaways at that point, because you don't pay back this kind of giveaway without making changes to tax rates. So I think there'll be a bit of both on there, but for those people that feel they're in that excluded bit, there's not a lot here that's going to help you out other than investment in, for example, if you're in the construction industry, there's stuff here for you. And there's people that work around that. So, people like you and I, Julia, who advise small businesses, there's work for us to do to help them to access some of this stuff. But if you're in a specific industry, that's not tourism and it's not in the hospitality area, and you haven't been picked out with something like the arts grants that are on their way, then there are definitely some holes that people are going to fall through.
So we're not really expecting, so just thinking about our new normal, because it's obviously been a moving feast, hasn't it? It's like playing a game of football and the goalposts keep constantly changing. It's been very difficult, and people have been wanting to get to the new normal, which really is like building a business on quicksand. What is the new normal? But I get a sense that we're not really going to hear anything else between now and the autumn budget. So in a sense, where we are now is probably the start of a fairly stable new normal.
I really hope so, because it's very hard to plan. It's hard to plan in a small business anyway during normal times. It's much more difficult with what's going on outside. You add into that little changes in legislation and changes in tax rates as you go, and really there's very little to hold on to give us that sense of stability. So my understanding now is this is what we've got for the next couple of months at least, and hopefully we can just get ourselves a little bit stable working with this until we get the next change. Now, I know that there are still industries who can't even work. If you're a beautician, you still don't have a date for when you can open up. So we're not in a standard place for everybody. It does depend on what your industry is like, but I think until we get to really September, this is what it's going to look like now. I'm not expecting any big handouts, surprises coming anywhere, new schemes. I mean, I can't remember all the names of all the schemes we've got going anymore. It is worth knowing that CBILS is coming to an end. So that ends in September. Obviously, furlough comes to an end in October. So we have got the finish of some of these schemes. There won't be another furlough scheme. I'm absolutely certain. I say that. I really should never say that. I'm absolutely certain at the moment that this furlough scheme, when it comes to an end in October, will be the end of it. If we have another major lockdown next year, perhaps it'll get reinvigorated at that point. But the Chancellor is not going to budge on that date. As much as people were hoping for it, that's, I think, a hard line.
So I think that thank you for all your comments and input on that. And I think, therefore, that as a business owner, now is a really good time to continue pushing with that energy, because there is a really big storm on the horizon, isn't there, in the form of the recession. And so now is the time to really, just prepare your businesses, keep on with the energy. And a lot of us are feeling very tired because of the last few months and the energy we've had to just find. But for me, it's a sense of just keeping going with that and keeping focused and making the most of this time, because this time potentially is still a better time than we're looking at, sort of medium term. Is that your sort of sense as well?
Yeah, at the very beginning of this update document, before we get into the shiny stuff, the Chancellor says that it looks like this year could be the biggest drop in output in the UK economy for 300 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That's, I know we've said unprecedented a lot. It really is unprecedented. That's a big thing that we're going to have to weather. So small businesses are resilient and we are able to change very quickly, which is the real bonus of being a small business owner. You can pivot, another catchphrase, you can pivot at any stage. And so we have the ability to do that. But what we do have, I think, at the moment is a lack of resilience because of what we've gone through over the last 4 months. The way I get that is by surrounding myself with people that are uplifting and that can support me and that I can ask for help from. And that's why being part of a community is so, so helpful. But there's a little bit of grab on tight, keep on doing what you're doing, make plans, please make plans, cash flow plans specifically. That is what you need to know. It's much better to know now where there's a gap. If there's a gap in January, you can do something about it now. You can't do something about it when you hit the hole in January. So cash flow planning, definitely get that done. Ask for help. There's lots of free help out there. But yes, it's going to be a matter of use this time now because it's possible that we're going to hit some really rocky stuff January next year and going forward.
Yeah, I agree. So I think maybe take a step back, take a deep breath and see where your business is and how to move forward with it and plan. And as you say, surround yourself with people that are supportive and positive. There is still a lot of positivity out there and there's a real movement about keeping the kindness from lockdown going and that sense of community, which personally I'm really keen to continue with. So if anybody isn't a member of the Stronger Together group, do please join that. We've got all sorts of special focus sessions going on, all sorts of Stronger Together get-togethers. I'm there with the Chancellor having my little catchphrase. But do join it because we're meeting all sorts of people. And of course, all those people in that network have their own network as well. So there is a sense of a community, but it's only going to be can be as good as the people that are in it. So, this is why it's so wonderful to have people like Tory in it as well and doing such great stuff. And Tory, you've just been so brilliant sharing all this help and advice with people. So thank you for that.
Okay.
So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you especially to Tory. It's been absolutely invaluable. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Julia.